I'm going to section this off to obvious ads, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and quarterbacks, but mixed into all these positions will be players that you should be looking to pick up and guys that are going to be waiver wire traps that you should avoid. So please don't just skim through the video and then go down to the comment section and go, Mason, you really think I need to be picking up Demario Douglas? No, please hear me out. Starting with the obvious ads, these are going to be players that are rostered in 50% more of leagues. You have Chuba Hubbard at 59%. He saw 45 snaps compared to Miles Sanders at 12. He would be the number one pickup if you needed a running back, but I'm assuming that he's already rostered in your league. Tajee Spears, only rostered in 50% of leagues. I will say, obvious ad, if he's out there, he did play 30 snaps. Obviously, Derrick Henry dominated touches. Shefty's coming out and saying that most likely Derrick Henry will not be dealt. We'll believe it once we get to Wednesday. And then Jahan Dotson, rostered in 51% of leagues. Obvious ad, you have the Curtis Samuel injury. John Dotson coming off a game where he had 10 targets, over 100 receiving yards, and the receiving touchdown. Now let's go over to the regular ads that we are going to have. We are going to run it back saying Darrell Henderson and Royce Freeman are running backs that you need a roster. Darrell Henderson rostered in 45% of leagues. Royce Freeman rostered in 22%. They're the only running backs that see snaps this week. You have Royce Freeman at 33. You have Darrell Henderson at 29. Henderson actually leads this team in receiving. Royce Freeman's the guy that gets the rushing touchdown. I don't necessarily think that you're going to be super excited to start either one of these running backs right now. Now, of course, if one of them were to take over and begin to see more than 75% of the snaps in Los Angeles, then they would be must-start guys and they'd be high-end RB2s. But as they stand currently in a 50-50 backfield split, instead, they're going to be respectively either a low-end RB2, high-end RB3, and dependent on the bye weeks that we're dealing with this week, plus your injuries, maybe he is someone that you need to go towards. Now, Zach Charbonnet rostered in 42% of leagues. I will reiterate, roster Zach Charbonnet. He actually sees the majority of snaps here in Seattle with 32 snaps compared to Kenneth Walker at 24. Now, keep in mind with Charbonnet, this is a running back that we're not expecting to be the starting guy over Kenneth Walker going forward. You add Kenneth Walker as an RB dealing with a calf injury coming into this game. I think that ultimately the reason why you had more Charbonnet than Walker was just given that injury to Walker, and he will get better and he will be the starting running back in Seattle. However, if you were to see this injury linger, if you were to see Kenneth Walker maybe have a compensation injury and then miss any time whatsoever, Zach Charbonnet, a running back that has been very efficient on a per touch perspective as a rookie, a running back that was a great prospect coming out of UCLA, where he had the size to be a 3-down back. He had the receiving down skill set to play on third downs. He had the athleticism that we need from running backs coming out of school. And he went in round 2 of the NFL draft. If we were to have any time missed from Kenneth Walker, he would be a running back that you need to start. Now, Amari DiMercato is rostered in 36% of leagues. We will reiterate, he needs to be on your team if he is out there as a running back that had 20 carries this past week. He did split the backfield if you're looking at the snaps with Keontae Ingram. Ultimately, it doesn't matter though, right? Because Keontae Ingram has 3 total touches in comparison to DiMercato at 21. We actually told some people to start him this week just because they were in disgusting spots overall. Not going to apologize for it. I understand. Yeah, he only gave you 9 fantasy points. But still, if you can get a running back out there that's going to see 20 or more touches on a week-to-week perspective, something that you probably have to do, especially if this offense may get a little bit better as we bring in Kyler Murray, hopefully soon, even if they're saying it's not going to be this week. Now, as we pull up the wide receivers, let me remind you, go down there, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. And if you want to tell me on my favorite underdog pick'em for tonight, I'm going to be taking the fewer than 100.5 total yards for Jahmyr Gibbs. Great matchup, a must-start player. 100.5 total yards is a crazy projection, though. And you can find that link in the description or the comment section. Promo code FLOCK will get you a 100% deposit match, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers. And on top of that, ladies and gentlemen, a Jared Goff special pick'em, more than less than half a total yard going up against the Raiders tonight. And an Amon-Ra St. Brown special pick'em, more than less than half a total yard if you use code FLOCK on Underdog. But our next position, we are going to be filled with a bunch of landmines. I understand a lot of people will be excited to go out there and pick up Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks has now seen back-to-back games with a receiving touchdown. Brandon Cooks has now seen back-to-back games with anywhere from about 15 to 20 fantasy points. That's great, and maybe if you drafted Brandon Cooks in an Underdog basketball draft, you should be really excited about the points that he is giving you. In reality, has the role changed whatsoever for Brandon Cooks? Do I think we can tell a single soul on this planet to start Brandon Cooks this next week? Hell no, ladies and gentlemen. Brandon Cooks this season, 4 targets, 7 targets, then 4, 4, 4, and 4 targets. The man's out there averaging about 4.5 targets per game. I'm sorry, we cannot start him. And if we were to have to ask, what would we need to see to start Brandon Cooks? As we would probably need to see him go out there and have a few games in a row with 8, 9 targets straight. So I would way rather roster one of those running backs that we were previously talking about. Someone like Zach Charbonnet is the perfect example, right? I mean, Charbonnet rostered in 42% of leagues compared to Brandon Cooks at 41%. I mean, if CeeDee Lamb goes down with an injury, do I expect Brandon Cooks to be a league winner? Probably not. Whereas if Walker goes down, I do expect Charbonnet to be one. Now, Rashid Shaheed, another one of these guys that we drafted in a considerable amount of Underdog best ball drafts. But am I going out there and am I starting him anytime soon? Am I picking him up and am I excited about our shallow redraft format with him? No, I am not. Now, I understand people will be, right? This is a wide receiver that this week has 153 receiving yards and gets you the receiving touchdown. Now, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, he has 3 targets on the day, okay? So this is naturally what you're going to see, right? If the New Orleans Saints go out there and drop 40 points on a consistent basis, then at that point, I will say, yes, go out there and pick up Shaheed. But in reality, you're probably going to have this offense coming back down to earth. You still have Chris Olave as the alpha target here. You still have Alvin Kamara seeing a 20% team target share. You still have Michael Thomas ahead of Shaheed on the pecking order. So if we're looking at this, she's what? The option number 4 in a bad offense going forward. Do not be wasting a roster spot on Shaheed. Now, I was surprised to hear that people were asking about Demario Douglas in our live stream this morning, asking if they should go out there and start this receiver. Now you have an injury to Kendrick Bourne. So he will be a wide receiver. I already know people are going to tell you to pick up. Do not do it, ladies and gentlemen. You need to ask yourself, what is the upside with this pickup? What has to happen for me to feel comfortable putting him in my starting lineup? To be completely frank with you, I have no idea. I mean, we've already had the injury to Kendrick Bourne. Would I start Demario Douglas? Hell to the no. I am not going to be doing that, ladies and gentlemen. This is a wide receiver that does see 7 targets this week. He does see a considerable amount of snaps played. Like we said, you have the Kendrick Bourne injury. And maybe is the wide receiver 1 for the New England Patriots. That's 100% a possibility. But ultimately, he is a rookie that was just selected at the end of round 6. And until we actually see something from a wide receiver with no pedigree, there's no reason for me to pick him up when he's in one of the worst offenses in the NFL. It would be different, right? I mean, say instead he was going to be stepping into a big time role in an offense that was going to have a ton of passing volume. Say he was stepping into the Detroit Lions and Amon-Ra St. Brown went down. I mean, say he's Josh Reynolds. Then yeah, of course, we're going to play in Josh Reynolds with no Amon-Ra St. Brown just because the Lions offense is a top tier team. Whereas if we're looking at New England here, there's just no reason to go get this guy. Now, our next player will be Marvin Mims. And with Marvin Mims, I know you're probably going to be surprised to see him because it's a name you haven't heard in quite some time, ladies and gentlemen. You have the past 3 weeks, a total of 3 targets and a total of 4 receiving yards. However, with that being said, if we look at this graph from PFF, you will see you have Mims trending upwards with his snap rate, while at the same time, we are being told that there is a good chance that either Jerry Jeudy and or Courtland Sutton will be dealt out of Denver. I'm not saying that this is for sure going to happen, but knowing that it's a possibility, if you wanted to be putting Marvin Mims on your watch list, I would recommend it. Now, what's a nice thing about this is the trade deadline's Tuesday. We will know by the time that your waiver's clear if you need to pick up Marvin Mims or not. If Jerry Jeudy and or Courtland Sutton are not dealt, there's no reason in rostering him. However, if we do get a trade for either Jeudy or Sutton over the next few days, then Marvin Mims will probably be my favorite wide receiver pickup out of this group. I think he's by far and away the best prospect here. Like, I mean, if you're looking at him versus Demario Douglas, it's a night and day difference if you're looking at the pedigree of these players. Now, let's go over to the quarterback position just briefly, ladies and gentlemen. Will Levis is someone I'm very biased for. I've heard me say it a million times now. Will Levis was the nicest guy ever to be on the NFL red carpet. I mean, threw me a bone, was willing to go out there and give me a great interview when he got nothing from it. I forever am rooting for Will Levis. With that being said, I am picking up Will Levis at the same time. This is a quarterback that I would be shocked if they turn the keys back over to Ryan Tannehill after Levis throws for 4 passing touchdowns after Ryan Tannehill does absolutely nothing all season. I mean, if you're looking at the last game that we had from Tannehill, I don't even want to go to the last game. Ryan Tannehill played 6 games this season and had 2 passing touchdowns and 6 interceptions. There's no way in hell they go back to Tannehill. Will Levis not only had a great day passing, but at the same time, Will Levis actually showed some rushing upside earlier on in his collegiate career at Kentucky. He did run the ball 7 times for 11 carries. This game, obviously not a ton of fantasy points there, but he's a big-bodied quarterback. I wouldn't be surprised if we get some rushing involvement for Will Levis, specifically at the goal line, and he has some rushing touchdown upside. I think that he is 100% worth a pickup if you need a streaming quarterback. Like, if you have no Anthony Richardson, if you have no Deshaun Watson, if you have no Justin Fields, if you have no Kirk Cousins, and you need to go to waivers, Will Levis will be one of those top guys right alongside Sam Howell. Now, Howell's already rostered in 45% of leagues. Will Levis is only rostered in 4%. With Sam Howell, I mean, he's at 308 passing attempts so far this season. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't even know if that's fully updated. No, that is fully updated. 308 passing attempts, 2,100 passing yards. He is running the ball a bit as well. He's 130 rushing yards on the season. It's kind of funny, right? Because this is just a horrendous offense. But the defense is so bad that they are going to be forced to go out there and have Sam out at the very top of the NFL every single week in dropbacks. I mean, if you're going through and looking at what opposing offenses have done against this team, you had the Cardinals scoring 16 points. Hell, that's a pretty big deal. You had the Broncos scoring 33, the Bills scoring 37, the Eagles scoring 34, the Bears scoring 40. The Falcons scoring 16, the Giants with Tyrod Taylor, who just had 7 passing yards this week, scoring 14 points, and then you had the Eagles dropping 38. So Sam Howell will be forced in a position where he's going to have a ton of dropbacks. He's been viable in fantasy. He's almost the Jameis Winston of 2020. I'd say he's a watered down version, right? Now let's go over to the tight end position. Trey McBride was one of those top pickups last week. Trey McBride's still only rostered in 20% of leagues. I'd say McBride at this point, honestly, one of the best pickups that you could make. You're looking at this graph from PFF saying that, I mean, his snaps right where they were at the end of his rookie season, right? I mean, you are looking at that spike earlier on last year once you had no Zach Ertz. But now you have no Zach Ertz again. He's right back to where he was. We know typically these rookie tight ends, these year 2 tight ends, take a little bit longer to break out than you'd expect from other positions. So honestly, from a tight end that had a lot of pedigree coming out of school, a lot of people had him as the tight end 1 before the NFL draft last year. I think that this isn't too much of a surprise. I think that you should expect him to continue to do well. And Trey McBride could very easily be a top 10 tight end rest of season. Now, that's not to say go out there and aggressively trade for Trey McBride by any means, but it is to say that he is someone that's worth a waiver wire pickup. Now, going over to our next tight ends, I got to talk about Taysom Hill just a bit, right? If you are looking at Taysom Hill, this is a tight end that really is a unicorn. He's not even really a tight end. I don't know what the hell you call him. He has 203 rushing yards on the season. He has 3 rushing touchdowns on the year, and he has 69 passing yards. Now, ultimately, the issue that you may have with Taysom is you may want to say, well, Mason, come on, man. I mean, he's not really going to give me anything as a receiver. And of course, he's not going to give you anything as a receiver, right? I mean, this is someone that so far this season has 15 receptions. So what I'm doing with Taysom, who's rostered in 35% of leagues currently, is if it is a non-PPR format, Taysom Hill is a phenomenal pickup, a phenomenal start, because hell, you don't care if he has the receiving volume or not. He has touchdown upside, and that's the only thing that matters. However, if it's a full BBR league, then it would probably be much, much tougher to go out there and pick up Taysom Hill. So I think it's really going to be dependent on, I mean, you can pick him up, much harder to start him, but non-BBR league, he will be startable right away. But I think that's all I have for y'all with this video. If you haven't done so already, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. And if you want to tail me on that Jahmyr Gibbs fewer than 100.5 total yards for tonight's game, you can find that link to Underdog in the description in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK, 100% deposit match, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers, and a Jared Goff special pick 'em more than less than half a total yard, and an Amon-Ra St. Brown Flock exclusive pick 'em more than less than half a total yard as well. But thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. I really do appreciate you. Really hope you have a great day, and really hope we get to see you in the live stream later tonight.